Good morning, good afternoon, or good evening. This is Pamela, and you are watching Pam Entertainment TV. We are here for our weekly pop culture chat where we just review information in the news and just kind of figure it out, give you some advice, or me take some advice. It doesn't really matter. But listen, as you all come in, please make sure you all hit that like button and also subscribe. And once you subscribe, you'll be open to a plethora of videos that I have done under Pop Culture Chat. I do have a Pop Culture Chat playlist that you all should get into. Listen, I do this all the time. Here are my copyright information and I will read them both. Copyright disclaimer under Section 107 of the Copyright Act of 1976. Allowance is made for fair use for the purpose such as criticism, comment, news reporting, teaching, scholarship, education, and research. Fair use is a use permitted by copyright statute that might be otherwise infringing. Also, the views and opinions expressed on this video are my own thoughts, concerns, or analysis. I do not know these entities nor these people in these personally that I am speaking about, and my opinions are just that opinions. They're not statement of facts. All right. Here's my question. I've been watching on the news lately, and is it me? But are current attacks on white people being used to justify military presence in American cities with black mayors? And this is where I'm going with this. So, if you've been consuming the news, it has been very big about different instances that have been going on, particularly a couple of instances. One that happened in Washington D.C. a few weeks ago, where one of the Doge employees that worked with Elon Musk, he was carjacked and then President Trump sent troops to Washington, D.C. And now we are hearing of a Ukrainian refugee that was attacked on a metro line in Charlotte, Mecklenburg County. She was attacked. And I just heard in my state, there was a woman who was attacked in Auburn, Alabama. And so you're saying, well, Pamela, what are you talking about? All of the attacks, from what I understand, were by black men on white people, two white women and one white man. And so every time that I'm seeing or hearing this, and I'm thinking, the president has talked about all of these places, all of these towns that he has decided that need the National Guard. One of the things that I'm noticing that is similar about a lot of these towns is the fact that they have black mayors. They also lean Democratic, and they have a good population of black folks. So if you're not familiar about black folks in the United States of America, most black people, and particularly those black people that were most black immigrants live in the Northeast. So you have places that are enclaves for black immigrants like New York, places in Minnesota, um, New Jersey, places like Vermont, all of those places up northeast, there is a high enclave of black immigrants. As you move further south, there is a huge concentration. So when you start talking about places like uh, Louisiana, Alabama, Mississippi, Georgia, Florida, Tennessee, North and South Carolina, uh, Virginia, most black people who were descendants of slaves and descendants of chattel slavery, they live in the South, Florida. Most of them live in the South. Now you'll find a nice little enclave of because of the migration from the South back that started for Black folks back in the 1920s, 1930s. You will see a lot of Black folks that went from the South up north places, and it depends on what state that you came out of. So, for instance, um, if you were from Mississippi, 9 times out of 10, most people in Chicago can trace their lineage back to Mississippi because most people that left Mississippi, a good number of them went to Chicago. If you if your folks are from Alabama, most of those people went up to Detroit. Some of them went to Chicago, but most people from Detroit can trace their lineage back to Alabama. When you start talking about New Jersey and New York, most people from Georgia and Florida, they go to New York. If you're talking about North and South Carolina, most people go over to the Midwest. They go like to Ohio area. Most people are over that way. Also with Mississippi, if you're from Mississippi, Alabama, Louisiana, most those people went out west. So if you've got a lot of people that if you're from out west and you trace your people back to Louisiana and Mississippi, that is because most of those uh, families, Black families, moved out west. So Black Americans are everywhere. But I just want it to be very clear that most Black Americans that live in the South or live in certain enclaves, you can tell where they migrated from. Like I said, Mississippi went out west or up to Chicago. Louisiana usually went out west. If you were from Alabama, your folks migrated up to Detroit. If you were from like Georgia and Florida, your folks went to New York or New Jersey. If you were from like the Tennessee area, I'm not really sure where the people from Tennessee migrated to. I have to look that up. The Black folks that lived in Tennessee and Kentucky and all those places. I'm not sure whether they migrated or did anything, if they migrated. But most people from the South that migrated up north, those are the places that they migrated to. And so, if you're looking for the highest concentration of Black Americans, it's usually in the South. And like I said, when you're talking about Black immigrants, most Black immigrants that migrate from whatever country that they're coming from and come here, they usually are up north. And or if they're anywhere, they usually go. I've noticed that there's an enclave that they go if there's not that many Black Americans. And I don't know if that's a phenomenon. I just know that I've seen it. So if you see Black folks like in Vermont, I would say 7 times out of 10, most of those are from a different country. Most they're Black immigrants. They probably have come from a different country. You're talking about Vermont, Rhode Island, Maine, all of those places. Usually they're Black. They're Black immigrants. Not good, not bad, not indifferent. I'm just saying this is where I've seen the patterns of where people go. I've seen a lot of in Texas, probably around the Houston area. I see a big enclave of like continental Africans. So they're coming from Ghana or Nigeria. They're usually in that Houston area. And also over in San Francisco, you see a good enclave of continental Africans that have that have migrated, that have come over, immigrated to America. They live like in the uh, San Francisco area, Silicon Valley area, that area. I'm not sure. I know, because I think like with California, a lot of immigrations from South America, Central America, they go to Los Angeles, they go to California, they also go to Arizona, all of those different places. This is not a geography lesson or anything like that. It's just what I've noticed when you start talking to people. Because when you come down south, we don't have a huge uh, Black immigrant population. Maybe in Atlanta there is, but where I live, there's not a huge Black immigrant. We have South American. people who come from South American countries, people who come from Central American countries, uh, and we also have people that come from European countries. We have a good uh, English UK population here. Uh, Again, like you have Mexican and Central Americans and South Americans that come here, but we don't have a big enclave of like Caribbean or continental Africans where I live at. So we don't have a huge population. There's a population, but it's not huge, not like you would see in other areas. But anyway, I said all of that to say that it's interesting. So when I'm talking about these areas, most of the time these areas are like in the southern area. So if you come down like from Washington, because Washington D.C., yeah, it's middle of the road. We let them go. But usually when you talk about south of the Mason Dixon line, that is considered the South. So people in Virginia are technically in the South, but they're not Southern. I hope that makes sense. They're technically in the South, but they have more Northern sensibilities. For some of us who live down in the South, they have more Northern sensibilities. But usually when we say the South, we're talking about North and South Carolina, Georgia, Florida, Alabama, Tennessee, um, Louisiana, Mississippi. I don't know if Arkansas is considered to be the South or not. Y'all let me know. So I've noticed that the news media has been on an uptick to have a couple of stories that they are pushing. Now, I want to preface this. Violence against anybody is horrendous. I don't want you to take this subject matter that I'm talking about to make light of it. It is just me just looking at patterns. I'm starting to see things. And I want to be able to see if it's just me, because that's the title of my pop culture track. Is it me? Is it me? Are the current attacks on white people being used to justify military presence in American cities with black mayors? Are we seeing that? Because I've been listening to the president who has been talking about moving troops to different places. I know he has moved troops into Washington, D.C., but again, there has been a pretty much like a social media depressed, a social media, I don't want to say blackout, but it has been a social media suppression. So I don't see a lot of stuff until maybe 3 or 4 days after something happens. If you're on any of these social media platforms, uh, where if somebody was reporting some news, it was coming out and it was coming out really quickly. But now it's like you really have to refresh. I don't care which social media platform you're on. You're really going to have to refresh your pages because you're not seeing the information in real time. And that is by design. I understand that, and that is by design. I don't even know if you all are going to be able to see this one, but I have it recording on everything that I have the ability to have it to be recorded on. So the reason why I asked, so let's get into what I'm talking about. So you know me, I like a good PowerPoint. I am not going to go in depth. I'm just noticing certain things and certain patterns because you notice that uh, uh, with the news media, the traditional news media, they have aligned themselves with, I don't want the current administration coming in and doing anything. So we're just going to align ourselves by talking and doing the talking points that are set forth down by the administration. So right now it's like we want law and order, we want crime, we want to be able to do this. Now, you understand and be very clear that this administration is using the talking points from the Heritage Foundation, that Project 2025. They're going down that playbook. We have told you all about that. Please be aware. And one of those things is they talked about weakening the central government and making sure that if you're putting anybody in those central government is not by merit. It is about that I can appoint you to this position. And again, when people don't understand or listen into history, The merit system in these places were established because when the system was like how Project 2025 wanted it to be, and what I mean by that is you could just appoint who you wanted to in the positions, whether they were qualified for the position or not. Presidents made promises to people that they were going to have certain jobs if they voted for them or if they were aligned with them. And then those promises wasn't had, and a lot of people were getting pruned from the timeline. So this is why in the federal system and in a lot of state systems, if you're talking about getting government jobs, they have a merit system. And then people can get certain points by doing certain things. So like the military, if you served in the military, you got some preference because you served for your country. And particularly if you were disabled because of the fact that you served for your country, you were able to get some different points. So if you were a veteran, all of these little different things. So there were different ways. You still had to go and you still had to meet the prerequisite qualifications, but you just didn't go in there just because you and your family voted for the governor and now the government is going to give you a job. It had to be based on whether or not that you can do the job. But anyway, but there is a point in there where they are talking about this law and order. And also too, if you look at the American economy and how the American economy is it was built on capitalism. That means that the people who have are supposed to be able to take in more money without letting money go out. And a lot of times that has to do with if you have a labor force, you are able to. They want to be able to pay them the at the very least or not pay at all. So when this country started, the labor force was slaves, the enslaved. And so you had a labor force. Yeah, you were feeding and housing and all this stuff because you all want to make it seem like it was such a wonderful deal. But it was slave labor nonetheless. And so where you weren't having to pay for the labor, you were able to make up these costs. So what's happening now in the United States, once they abolished slavery, they didn't completely abolish slavery. Slavery is abolished except for punishment. And so what's happening? So when you hear that, that means, and I need for everyone to hear my voice when I say that. When you go to jail, when you are convicted and you are going to prison, you all like to use the beautiful words of wards of the state. But the technical word is that you all are slave and you are slaves, and so they can have you do labor without having to pay costs to you. Now I know some people say, well, they have to pay them a certain amount or anything like that, and possibly that may be true in different states or whatever, because the people have done legislation and stuff like that. But technically, they are a labor force, and they can be a labor force because they are technically slaves. So what we're seeing now is this big push to go into certain cities, and particularly we see that they've gone into Washington D.C. And my DC people, how effective has that been? Because again, I know that people want law and order, and there is nobody that is saying that they don't want law and order, but I'm just curious as to how effective is a military presence in for law and order. Do you think it's making the populace fearful where they don't want to go out at night? And you know how that affects businesses, because there are businesses that thrive on the fact that you're coming to restaurants, that you're coming to different places, that you're doing different things. Has that increased or has that decreased? So the only people that can tell me that is those people that live in Washington D.C. And I understand that the National Guards are going to be there through November 2026. So they're going to be there for a whole year. Y'all let me know how that's working out for y'all. But let's go over why I looked at this and why I thought, this is interesting. because I don't want to be on here long. How far are we? We're 22 minutes. Okay, so we're doing good. There we go. So then we have this young man. Now I have the links to the articles. These are the articles that you can look for. Now this young man, Edward Corsitan. Now he was assaulted in an apparent carjacking in Washington D.C. Now he is who I believe got all of this started as far as the president uh, sending the military to Washington D.C. What's interesting in all of that? Mm-mm. Hold on, y'all. What's interesting with that is that here's the mayor. Now, on here that I've said is that the National Guard members currently in Washington, D.C., with their deployment extended through November 30th, 2025, to support the federal and local law enforcement response to a declared crime emergency. Over 2,000 National Guard members from D.C. and other states are mobilized through this and recent deployment and departure from past deployments. So they've got the National Guard there. This is the mayor. When you look at their crime statistics in Washington and D.C., this was in 2024. So they are down in, let me move my big head, child. It says here that the percentage, if you can see this, their crime rates and things are down. Now, there is no city, no place that has zero crime rates. If there are, y'all put them down in the comments. But they're saying that they're seeing a decrease from 2024. They're seeing a decrease. But it seems like once this young man because he worked with the government, because he worked with Elon Musk, it seems like he was the reason why they ramped up the for the National Guard to go there. So then we have this young lady, and y'all, this was very sad. This was very sad to be sitting on a bus and then to be attacked from behind, and you didn't know what was going on. However, they are boosting up that she was a Ukrainian refugee because when they're talking about when the mainstream Americans talk about immigrants coming over and immigrants getting a job and everybody being behind the immigrants, she is the type of immigrant that America deems to be okay. You can fight me if you want to. It is just the truth. And to see the prototype, the model of an immigrant that they want to come to this country, she was pruned from the timeline. That is a problem for them. And so we are hearing that the president is looking to bring troops to Charlotte, North Carolina. Now, the mayor of Charlotte, North Carolina, Vi Lyles, she's a black woman. And so that was the second case that I looked at. I'm like, okay, so is it me that they're talking about this? Now, there are, from my understanding estimate, there are several cities with black mayors. But the major cities, like in major states like Charlotte, North Carolina, they have a black mayor. You have Washington, D.C. has a black mayor. Los Angeles has a black mayor. I'm not sure if New Orleans still has a black mayor or not. There's just, I think New Orleans has a black mayor that they were talking about sending the National Guard to. Um, there was one more city before the one I'm going to talk about. Don't know. So here are the crime statistics for Charlotte, North Carolina. and they go over all those crime statistics. And the thing about crime statistics, and the thing here, they go up and down. They go up and down. You know, depending, and it all depends on your government and the community working as a whole, working together to do all of this. And a lot of there, you know, now a lot of programs that were helping to decrease crime, they're being gutted because a lot of the monies that the federal government was earmarking for that, you know, the big beautiful bill has taken a lot of that away. So these are their crime statistics, and for the most part, they're going down. We've got their violent crimes uh, at 2760 compared to 3688. You got now 42 to 59. Now we still got a few more months in the year, but we still can see that there is some decrease. Aggravated assaults from 2800 to 21. All of these are their crime statistics. But there is a big push to send the National Guard because that young lady was pruned from the timeline. Now, I am aware, here is the article that I saw it in, that the mayor, I don't think she didn't give the thoughts and prayers or the type of answer she made. She made a statement which appeared that she was having empathy for the person that committed the crime versus the person that was the crime that had committed. I do believe that that was a misstep, but I do want to be able to make sure you hear that. And I think too, because of that misstep, she might be inviting things that that her statistics is saying that she shouldn't invite. And I will say this to if anybody that's in public office, anybody that are mayors or whatever, y'all be very mindful of how you say things. Be mindful. Understand the climate that you're in. I'm not telling you to suppress your thoughts or suppress your speech, but there's always a way to say what you need to say without saying it so bluntly. But I just wanted to put that up there to let you all know that I did see that, because I know a lot of people come back. Well, you didn't hear what she said. I did. That still doesn't change what it looks like to me. Is it me? That you know, are current attacks on white Americans being used by Black Americans being used to justify military presence? So then I saw this. This is the story that made me think about this. So down in Auburn, Alabama, this woman, she was a beloved veterinarian, and she taught at the university, Auburn University. That she was pruned from the timeline by this a suspected person is this person right here that my mouse is coupling. And why this was thing, because this is my city. And they have been talking about bringing, because there has been some crimes against property and white people. They're talking about bringing the National Guard. The governor is talking about bringing the National Guard. I live in a Republican-led state. And when I saw that story that I just, because this young man is from, I didn't mean to do that. Because this young man is from Montgomery, Alabama, that is, now we're having all of these stories about bringing the National Guard here. And what do you see? The mayor of my city is a Black man. Here are the crime statistics going on in Montgomery, because I like to be fair to show the stuff that's going on. And in my city, there is such a big push for more community involvement in reporting crimes, more community involvement with the police being there in the community. In my community, we know our police officers. They come through, they check on people. In my community, uh, we're very conscious about who's moving where and how they're moving. Group chats and text threads abound. There has probably been in the past 5 to 10 years a very conscientious effort to know your neighbor. You know, the rule is you should know the two people that live beside you and the two people that live across the street from you. That's your area, that's your swath, the people you check on your peoples and stuff. Hmm. So there's just been a big thing, but because there have been some salacious things that have happened in my city, they've been really pushing about sending the National Guard. Now, not talking about this Birmingham or Huntsville or Mobile, which has higher crime rates than we do, but they're talking about sending them to Montgomery. And I think that because that young man is purported to be from Montgomery, they're going to be a bigger push. And so I've just seen these little patterns. You see in Los Angeles, they're talking about doing it. And one of the things that was coming up, because a lot of people were saying, well, you need the National Guard because all of these cities with black mayors, they have certain agendas, which you're starting to see. You see, like in New York, that has a black mayor, you know, that's a sanctuary city. Los Angeles, I think, is a sanctuary city. And those places, they're saying that because they're sanctuary city, they are harboring uh, illegal immigrants and they're harboring people who commit crimes. And so then we talk about Chicago. Now, Chicago is interesting to me because I think that the citizens were telling the people to come because they do have a good high crime rate. And I don't know if they are a sanctuary city. I do have a slide that was compiled for me to let me know that. But they're talking about going to Chicago. And the governor and the legislators over there in Chicago is saying, hey, in Illinois, saying you got to ask my permission before you start just deploying anybody. But they're thinking about it. And what do we see? We see another black mayor. And so we're looking at the Chicago crime rate. They have a graph from 2015 to 2024. And you see that it was violent offenses, and these are the totality of violent offenses. So back in 2025, they had almost up to 1,200 per 100,000 residents. Then we started to see a decline, a slight spike. And then in 2021, we have a huge dip. So the violent crime rate in Chicago dipped to, excuse me, about looks like 300 per offenses per 100,000 residents. And then it had a slight increase up to about 600. And there is a small dip, but in comparison from 2020, and I don't know if this is because of the pandemic, if these numbers because of the pandemic, is it slowly rising back up? I don't know. But the next slide talks about the homicide rate. Now, back in 2015, looks like one of the lower rates. And then 2016, it ratcheted up. And then it was on a slowly decline to like 2019. And then it picked up. So this is now 2020 to the first part of 2022. This is the pandemic. So it ratchets up during the pandemic. Then it takes this deep drop. and now it's having it had an increase, and now it's on a so it looks like it's going to try to go back to the 2015 numbers. So if we just go across 2015, 2019. Yeah, I'm at y'all, it's not good. So let's do it again. So let's just do here. Just go, yeah. They're looking to get to where the 2020 numbers, they are below the 2015 numbers, but still looks like a lot. So here's the slide that was made for me. So Chicago is a sanctuary city. So they should probably look for uh, a look calm. Charlotte, Washington, D.C., Montgomery are not sanctuary cities. New York, Los Angeles, they're considered to be sanctuary cities. So I am quite sure that they're going to go there. I'm also believing that there is some places in Colorado that they're talking about going, because I think one of those cities in Colorado is a sanctuary city. I don't know, but why are you not moving? Hmm, might be the last slide. So all of that to say is I'm just noticing some interesting patterns. It's on the first part of it, but I am quite interested to see if there's going to be any more rhetoric about sending the National Guard to certain cities. And if they're talking and if they're seriously talking about sending the National Guard to certain cities, you could probably bet your bottom dollar that if that city has a black mayor, that black mayor is going to have a visit. Y'all let me know if I'm stretching, but it does seem to be that that's where they're headed. So that if those cities have black mayors, they may be getting a call or there may be rhetoric around it. And you watch the traditional media, because if there's any incident where a black person has harmed a white person, and then that happens in a city with a black mayor, y'all might be getting y'all might be getting a little knock from the president talking about sending the National Guard there. All right, people. Thank you so much for indulging my little conspiracy, or me just looking at patterns. I've always looked at it as just looking at patterns, and you all have allowed and given me so much grace to be able to share this with you. So I do appreciate it. And this is just one of my pop culture chats. But y'all let me know. Do you all think? Are you all seeing the pattern? Check your local news, and for those of you all that live in cities with black mayors, check your news. Check to see what crimes that they are hyping up. And again, I don't want anybody to mishear me. Anybody that has been a victim of a crime, I'm not saying that uh, anybody that's been a victim of a crime uh, is horrible and terrible. I am just talking about the systems. I'm just talking about the systems of the traditional news media, and watch which crimes that they highlight more. So if there's going to be a crime against a white person that has been committed or suspected to be committed against from a black person, I want you to watch to see how many of those types of things that you see on your local news, your regional news, wherever it is you get your news from. Check that out. See how they're just to watch it to see if there is a pattern, because there could be and there could not be. I'm just saying. All right, people, we do this every week. Please like, comment, and subscribe. Please share this video if you care. Y'all, please tell a friend, tell a kin, tell a coworker, tell that heifer that you can't stand that I'm over here making these videos. And as always, people, bye-bye.